Master of Architecture. MH4201. Sustainable Architecture, Historic and Community Perspective. Subject Concept Outline and Short Notes. Objectives and Unit 1. Define, Sustainable Architecture, Historic and Community Perspective. Sustainable architecture is an approach to designing buildings that considers the environmental impact of the building throughout its entire life cycle. This includes the materials used to construct the building, the energy consumption during its operation, and the eventual disposal of the building at the end of its useful life. From a historic perspective, sustainable architecture has been an important consideration for centuries. Many historic buildings were constructed using locally sourced materials and traditional building techniques that were well suited to the local climate and environment. These buildings often had passive design features, such as thick walls, narrow windows, and shading devices, that helped to naturally regulate indoor temperatures and reduce the need for mechanical heating and cooling systems. In addition to the historic perspective, sustainable architecture also has a strong community perspective. Sustainable buildings are designed with the needs of the community in mind, such as access to natural light, fresh air, and green space. They are often designed to be adaptable and flexible, with spaces that can be easily reconfigured as the needs of the community change over time. Sustainable architecture also emphasizes the use of renewable energy sources, such as solar panels, wind turbines, and geothermal systems. These systems can help to reduce the carbon footprint of the building and reduce its reliance on non-renewable energy sources. Finally, sustainable architecture also considers the environmental impact of the building materials themselves. Sustainable buildings often use materials that are locally sourced, non-toxic, and have a low environmental impact. They may also use recycled or reclaimed materials, such as reclaimed wood or recycled concrete, to reduce the demand for new materials and minimize waste. Overall, sustainable architecture takes a holistic approach to building design, considering the environmental impact of the building from conception to disposal. It draws on both historic and community perspectives to create buildings that are well suited to their environment and the needs of the people who use them, while minimizing their impact on the planet. Give familiarity about the evolution of the idea of sustainability in built environment from the past to the present. The concept of sustainability in the built environment has evolved significantly over time, reflecting changing societal values and environmental awareness. In the past, sustainable architecture was not a term that was commonly used, but many traditional building practices incorporated sustainable principles out of necessity. For example, buildings in ancient Rome were designed with thick walls and shading devices to keep them cool in the summer, while buildings in colder climates, such as the Nordic countries, were designed with steep roofs to shed snow and thick walls to retain heat. In the 20th century, sustainability began to emerge as a more formal concept in architecture and planning. Architects such as Frank Lloyd Wright and Le Corbusier promoted the idea of designing buildings that responded to their natural surroundings and minimized their impact on the environment. The 1970s saw the emergence of the environmental movement and the rise of interest in sustainable architecture as a response to concerns about resource depletion and pollution. In the 1980s and 1990s, sustainable architecture became more mainstream, with the development of green building rating systems such as LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and the promotion of sustainable design principles by organizations such as the U.S. Green Building Council. Today, sustainable architecture is an integral part of the design process for many architects and planners. Buildings are designed to be energy efficient, with passive design features such as shading devices and natural ventilation. Renewable energy sources such as solar panels and geothermal systems are also becoming increasingly common. Materials used in building construction are chosen for their environmental impact, with a focus on locally sourced, non-toxic, and recycled materials. In summary, the idea of sustainability in the built environment has evolved from traditional building practices that were rooted in necessity to a more formalized concept in the 20th century, and finally to a mainstream approach to architecture and planning in the 21st century. This evolution reflects a growing awareness of the environmental impact of the built environment and a commitment to creating buildings that are more sustainable and environmentally responsible. About sustainable concepts and principles of vernacular and historical architecture. Vernacular and historical architecture have many sustainable concepts and principles that are still relevant today. These buildings were often constructed using locally sourced materials and traditional building techniques that were well suited to the local climate and environment. Below are some sustainable concepts and principles of vernacular and historical architecture. Passive design. Vernacular and historical architecture often incorporated passive design features such as thick walls, small windows, and shading devices that helped to naturally regulate indoor temperatures and reduce the need for mechanical heating and cooling systems. Local materials. Buildings were constructed using locally sourced materials such as adobe, rammed earth, stone, or timber, reducing the environmental impact of transportation and minimizing waste. Adaptability. Many vernacular and historical buildings were designed to be adaptable and flexible, with spaces that could be easily reconfigured as the needs of the community changed over time. This reduced the need for new construction and minimized waste. Resource efficiency. Buildings were often designed with resource efficiency in mind, with features such as rainwater harvesting systems, passive solar heating, and natural ventilation. Durability. Vernacular and historical architecture was often built to last, with buildings constructed to withstand the local climate and environment. This reduced the need for frequent repairs and renovations. Human scale. Buildings were designed to be in harmony with their surroundings, with a focus on creating comfortable and functional spaces that met the needs of the community. Overall, the sustainable concepts and principles of vernacular and historical architecture are grounded in a deep understanding of the local environment and community needs. These principles emphasize resource efficiency, durability, and adaptability, all of which are still relevant today in creating sustainable buildings that are responsive to their environment and the needs of their users. Give knowledge about contemporary applications of traditional principles of sustainability. Contemporary applications of traditional principles of sustainability involve adapting the sustainable concepts and principles of vernacular and historical architecture to modern design and construction practices. Many architects and designers are looking to the past for inspiration in creating buildings that are sustainable, energy efficient, and responsive to the needs of their users. Here are some examples of contemporary applications of traditional principles of sustainability. Passive design. Passive design principles, such as shading devices, natural ventilation, and thermal mass, are being incorporated into contemporary buildings to reduce energy consumption and create comfortable living spaces. Local materials. Sustainable architecture is using locally sourced materials and reclaimed materials to reduce the environmental impact of transportation and minimize waste. Adaptability. Buildings are being designed with adaptable and flexible spaces that can be easily reconfigured as the needs of the community change over time. This reduces the need for new construction and minimizes waste. Resource efficiency. Contemporary buildings are incorporating features such as rainwater harvesting systems, green roofs, and renewable energy sources like solar panels and geothermal systems to reduce their environmental impact and minimize resource use. Durability. Contemporary architecture is using durable and long-lasting materials that can withstand the local climate and environment, reducing the need for frequent repairs and renovations. Human scale. Buildings are being designed to be in harmony with their surroundings, with a focus on creating comfortable and functional spaces that meet the needs of the community. Overall, the contemporary applications of traditional principles of sustainability demonstrate a renewed focus on creating buildings that are sustainable, energy efficient, and responsive to the needs of their users. By adapting these traditional principles to modern design and construction practices, architects and designers can create buildings that are both environmentally responsible and culturally meaningful. Give overview of practices, strategies, and implementation processes that shape sustainable architecture. Sustainable architecture is a holistic approach to designing and constructing buildings that minimize their impact on the environment, conserve resources, and promote human health and well-being. To achieve these goals, sustainable architecture incorporates a variety of practices, strategies, and implementation processes that are outlined below. Site selection. Sustainable architecture begins with the careful selection of building sites that are appropriate for the building's intended use and that minimize environmental impact. This includes consideration of factors such as soil quality, solar orientation, water availability, and access to public transportation. Passive design. Passive design strategies aim to reduce energy consumption by utilizing natural ventilation, daylighting, shading, and thermal mass to regulate indoor temperatures and reduce the need for mechanical heating and cooling systems. Energy-efficient systems. Sustainable architecture incorporates energy-efficient systems, such as LED lighting, high-efficiency HVAC systems, and renewable energy sources such as solar panels and wind turbines. Water conservation. Sustainable architecture employs water conservation strategies such as rainwater harvesting, greywater systems, low-flow fixtures, and water-efficient landscaping. Material selection. Sustainable architecture uses materials that have a low environmental impact, such as locally sourced, recycled, and low VOC, volatile organic compounds, materials. Lifecycle assessment. Sustainable architecture incorporates a lifecycle assessment approach to building design, which evaluates the environmental impact of the building over its entire life cycle, from production to demolition. Building certification. Many sustainable architecture projects seek certification from third-party organizations such as LEED, WELL, and the Living Building Challenge, which provides standards and guidelines for sustainable building design and construction. User engagement. Sustainable architecture includes user engagement strategies to encourage building occupants to adopt sustainable behaviors such as energy conservation, water conservation, and waste reduction. Ongoing monitoring and evaluation. Sustainable architecture incorporates ongoing monitoring and evaluation of building performance to ensure that sustainability goals are being met and to identify areas for improvement. Overall, sustainable architecture is a multifaceted approach to building design and construction that requires a holistic understanding of the building's environmental impact, as well as a commitment to ongoing evaluation and improvement. By incorporating sustainable practices, strategies, and implementation processes, architects and designers can create buildings that are environmentally responsible, resource efficient, and promote human health and well-being. Introduction to sustainability. Sustainability is a term used to describe the ability of a system or process to maintain itself over time without depleting natural resources or causing harm to the environment. In the context of human activities, sustainability refers to practices and actions that meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Sustainability has become an increasingly important concept in the face of growing environmental challenges such as climate change, deforestation, and depletion of natural resources. The principles of sustainability can be applied to many different areas of human activity, including agriculture, transportation, energy, and building design and construction. Sustainable practices often involve a holistic approach that considers the interconnectedness of different systems and processes and seeks to minimize negative impacts on the environment while promoting social and economic well-being. This can involve a wide range of strategies, such as reducing waste and pollution, conserving energy and natural resources, and promoting biodiversity and ecological health. The concept of sustainability has gained widespread recognition and support in recent years, with many businesses, organizations, and governments adopting sustainability practices as part of their operations. Sustainable development goals have been set by the United Nations to address the pressing environmental, social, and economic challenges facing the world today. Overall, sustainability is a concept that recognizes the importance of balancing human needs and activities with the needs of the environment and future generations. By adopting sustainable practices and principles, we can create a more resilient and sustainable world for ourselves and for future generations. Explain in detail building sustainability basics of ecology, ecosystems, energy, and material cycles in nature. Building sustainability is based on the principles of ecology and the understanding of how ecosystems function. Ecology is the scientific study of the interactions between living organisms and their environment, including the relationships between species, their habitats, and the flow of energy and materials through ecosystems. Ecosystems are made up of living organisms, such as plants and animals, as well as non-living components such as air, water, soil, and nutrients. Energy and material cycles are essential processes in ecosystems, as they allow for the circulation of resources and the maintenance of a balance of living and non-living components. Energy cycles in nature involve the movement of energy through ecosystems, from the sun to plants, to animals, and ultimately to decomposers such as fungi and bacteria. This movement of energy is facilitated by photosynthesis, which allows plants to convert sunlight into usable energy. In turn, animals consume plants and other animals for energy, with decomposers breaking down dead organic matter and returning nutrients to the soil. Material cycles in nature involve the circulation of matter through ecosystems, with nutrients and other materials being recycled and reused. This cycle involves processes such as decomposition, which breaks down organic matter into nutrients that can be taken up by plants. Nutrients are also cycled through the soil and water, with organisms such as bacteria and fungi playing important roles in these processes. Building sustainability applies these ecological principles to the design and construction of buildings, seeking to minimize negative impacts on the environment while promoting sustainable practices. This can involve strategies such as the use of renewable energy sources, the selection of sustainable materials, and the implementation of water and energy-efficient systems. For example, a sustainable building might incorporate passive solar design, which utilizes the sun's energy to naturally heat and cool the building. It might also incorporate rainwater harvesting, which allows for the collection and reuse of water for landscaping and other non-potable uses. Sustainable building design might also involve the use of recycled or sustainable materials, such as bamboo or reclaimed wood, which reduce the demand for new materials and help to conserve natural resources. Overall, building sustainability is based on a deep understanding of the principles of ecology and the interconnectedness of different systems and processes in nature. By applying these principles to building design and construction, we can create buildings that are environmentally responsible, resource efficient, and promote human health and well-being. Explain in detail building sustainability function of ecosystem. Building sustainability is based on the principles of ecology and the understanding of how ecosystems function. Ecosystems are complex networks of living organisms and non-living components such as air, water, soil, and nutrients. The functioning of ecosystems is essential for sustaining life on Earth, and building sustainability aims to minimize negative impacts on ecosystems while promoting sustainable practices. There are several key functions of ecosystems that are relevant to building sustainability. Provisioning services. Ecosystems provide a range of natural resources that are essential for human well-being, such as food, water, and materials for building. Sustainable building design seeks to minimize the depletion of natural resources by using renewable resources and recycled materials. Regulating services. Ecosystems regulate natural processes that are important for sustaining life, such as the carbon and water cycles. Sustainable building design seeks to minimize negative impacts on these processes by reducing energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. Cultural services. Ecosystems provide cultural and aesthetic values that are important for human well-being, such as recreation and spiritual inspiration. Sustainable building design seeks to preserve and promote these values by incorporating natural features such as green spaces and natural light. Supporting services. Ecosystems provide underlying services that are essential for the functioning of other ecosystem services, such as nutrient cycling and soil formation. Sustainable building design seeks to promote the health and resilience of ecosystems by minimizing soil erosion and promoting biodiversity. Overall, building sustainability seeks to promote a deep understanding of the functions of ecosystems and the interdependence of different natural processes. By incorporating sustainable practices into building design and construction, we can minimize negative impacts on ecosystems and promote the health and well-being of both human and natural systems. Concept of sustainability and sustainable development in architecture. Sustainability and sustainable development are key concepts in architecture that seek to promote environmentally responsible and socially equitable practices in building design and construction. Sustainability refers to the ability to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In the context of architecture, sustainability involves minimizing negative impacts on the environment while promoting resource efficiency, energy efficiency, and human health and well-being. Sustainable development, on the other hand, refers to development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Sustainable development seeks to balance economic growth with social and environmental considerations, promoting social equity, economic prosperity, and environmental responsibility. In architecture, sustainable development involves incorporating sustainable practices into building design and construction, such as the use of renewable energy sources, the selection of sustainable materials, and the implementation of water and energy-efficient systems. Sustainable development also involves considering the social and cultural impacts of building design, such as promoting social equity and community involvement in the design process. Overall, the concepts of sustainability and sustainable development are key to promoting environmentally responsible and socially equitable practices in architecture. By incorporating these concepts into building design and construction, architects can help to create buildings that are resource efficient, environmentally responsible, and promote human health and well-being. Sustainable materials, and the implementation of water and energy-efficient systems. Sustainable development also involves considering the social and cultural impacts of building design, such as promoting social equity and community involvement in the design process. Issues of sustainability in the current world. There are a few critical issues related to sustainability in the current world that need to be addressed in order to create a more sustainable future. Some of the key issues include climate change. Climate change is one of the most pressing environmental issues facing the world today. It is caused by the increase of greenhouse gas emissions from human activities such as burning fossil fuels and deforestation. Climate change leads to a range of negative impacts such as rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and loss of biodiversity. Resource depletion. The Earth's natural resources are finite, and many of them are being depleted at an unsustainable rate. This includes resources such as water, forests, and minerals. As populations grow and consumption patterns change, the demand for these resources increases, leading to depletion and environmental degradation. Waste management. The generation of waste is a significant environmental problem, particularly in urban areas. Landfills and incinerators are the primary methods of waste disposal, but these methods have negative environmental impacts. Recycling and waste reduction efforts are essential to reduce the amount of waste generated and minimize its impact on the environment. Loss of biodiversity. Human activities such as deforestation, urbanization, and pollution have resulted in the loss of biodiversity, which is essential for ecosystem functioning and human well-being. The loss of biodiversity can lead to the extinction of species, disruption of ecosystems, and reduced ecosystem services. Social equity. Sustainable development must also consider social equity, ensuring that all individuals have equal access to resources and opportunities. Social equity issues include poverty, inequality, and lack of access to education, healthcare, and basic services. Overall, addressing these sustainability issues requires a concerted effort from individuals, communities, governments, and businesses to promote sustainable practices and policies that prioritize environmental responsibility, social equity, and economic prosperity. Difference between green and sustainable design in architecture. Green design and sustainable design are two related but distinct concepts in architecture that aim to promote environmentally responsible building practices. While the terms are sometimes used interchangeably, there are some key differences between green and sustainable design. Green design is focused primarily on environmental performance, with an emphasis on reducing the environmental impact of buildings. Green design typically incorporates features such as energy-efficient lighting and HVAC systems, renewable energy sources, water-saving fixtures, and the use of sustainable materials. The goal of green design is to reduce the use of non-renewable resources, minimize waste and pollution, and create a healthy indoor environment. Sustainable design, on the other hand, is a broader concept that encompasses social, economic, and environmental considerations. Sustainable design seeks to balance the needs of people, the planet, and prosperity, promoting social equity, economic viability, and environmental responsibility. Sustainable design includes features such as energy-efficient systems, the use of sustainable materials, and consideration of the social and cultural impacts of building design. In addition, sustainable design seeks to promote the long-term sustainability of building systems, considering their impact over the entire life cycle of a building. Overall, while green and sustainable design share many similarities, sustainable design takes a more holistic approach that considers social, economic, and environmental factors in building design and construction. While both approaches are important for promoting environmentally responsible building practices, sustainable design offers a broader perspective that incorporates a wider range of considerations. Need, premise, and strategies for sustainable and green design. The need for sustainable and green design arises from the need to address the environmental challenges facing our planet, such as climate change, resource depletion, and pollution. The built environment has a significant impact on the environment, accounting for a significant portion of greenhouse gas emissions and resource use. Sustainable and green design seek to reduce this impact by promoting environmentally responsible building practices. The premise of sustainable and green design is to create buildings that are resource efficient, environmentally responsible, and promote human health and well-being. This includes designing buildings that use renewable energy sources, reduce waste and pollution, and conserve resources such as water and energy. Sustainable and green design also considers the social and cultural impacts of building design, promoting social equity and community involvement in the design process. Strategies for sustainable and green design include energy-efficient design. This includes strategies such as using passive solar design, optimizing building orientation, and using energy-efficient lighting and HVAC systems. Renewable energy sources. This includes the use of solar panels, wind turbines, and geothermal systems to provide clean, renewable energy for buildings. Sustainable materials. This includes the use of materials that are sustainably sourced, such as wood from sustainably managed forests, and materials that have low embodied energy, such as recycled or salvaged materials. Water conservation. This includes strategies such as using low-flow fixtures, capturing and reusing rainwater, and designing landscapes that require minimal water. Waste reduction. This includes strategies such as designing buildings that can be easily disassembled and recycled, using materials with a long lifespan, and designing for adaptability and flexibility. Social equity. This includes strategies such as involving the community in the design process, creating buildings that are accessible to all individuals, and promoting social and cultural sustainability. Overall, sustainable and green design strategies seek to create buildings that are not only environmentally responsible, but also socially and economically viable. By promoting sustainable and green design practices, architects can help to create a more sustainable and equitable future for all. Need, premise, and strategies for sustainable and green design. Need for finding holistic solutions. The need for sustainable and green design arises from the need to address the environmental challenges facing our planet, such as climate change, resource depletion, and pollution. The built environment has a significant impact on the environment, accounting for a significant portion of greenhouse gas emissions and resource use. Sustainable and green design seek to reduce this impact by promoting environmentally responsible building practices. The premise of sustainable and green design is to create buildings that are resource efficient, environmentally responsible, and promote human health and well-being. This includes designing buildings that use renewable energy sources, reduce waste and pollution, and conserve resources such as water and energy. Sustainable and green design also considers the social and cultural impacts of building design, promoting social equity and community involvement in the design process. Strategies for sustainable and green design include energy-efficient design. This includes strategies such as using passive solar design, optimizing building orientation, and using energy-efficient lighting and HVAC systems. Renewable energy sources. This includes the use of solar panels, wind turbines, and geothermal systems to provide clean, renewable energy for buildings. Sustainable materials. This includes the use of materials that are sustainably sourced, such as wood from sustainably managed forests, and materials that have low embodied energy, such as recycled or salvaged materials. Water conservation. This includes strategies such as using low-flow fixtures, capturing and reusing rainwater, and designing landscapes that require minimal water. Waste reduction. This includes strategies such as designing buildings that can be easily disassembled and recycled, using materials with a long lifespan, and designing for adaptability and flexibility. Social equity. This includes strategies such as involving the community in the design process, creating buildings that are accessible to all individuals, and promoting social and cultural sustainability. In addition to these strategies, it is important to find holistic solutions that consider the interconnectedness of all aspects of sustainability. This means considering the social, economic, and environmental impacts of building design and construction, and finding solutions that promote sustainability in all areas. For example, promoting energy efficiency not only reduces greenhouse gas emissions, but also helps to reduce energy costs for building occupants. Similarly, using sustainable materials not only reduces the impact of building construction on the environment, but also promotes the use of locally sourced materials, supporting local economies and reducing transportation emissions. Overall, finding holistic solutions that address all aspects of sustainability is key to promoting sustainable and green design practices that promote a more sustainable and equitable future for all.